Hello, welcome back to A Course in Miracles. I'm Tomas, and well, all right. Sometimes on the path, we have some review ideas, right? It's helpful to have a review session or a refresher or a reminder because let's face it, we're on lesson 297 here in the workbook, which means that we've had a lot of ideas presented to us. If you want to look at it as having a lot of ideas thrown at you, then, roll with that. But there are a lot of ideas, and it's very helpful to go back every now and then and revisit certain concepts, certain ideas, lessons, we call them, that we've seen before. And as you know, there are a series in part one of the workbook of review periods. Yeah, so it's built in to the structure that we need to review. I mean, when you took high school and college or graduate school courses, if you've taken courses as an adult, you'll know that it's, well, if you're to really grasp the material, it's helpful to review. Same with spirituality, right? Because really, it's not about whether we grasp it intellectually or not. It's important. It does have some importance that we at least conceptually understand the idea. It doesn't have to be total, by the way. It can be good enough, really, in terms of intellectual understanding, because the action is in the doing, it's in the application, it's in the experience. That's where the action lies in spirituality is, are you living, breathing these ideas? Is there truth being shown to you because you're applying it? Right? Are you experiencing the truth of all of these? That's the real question. It's all about the application. Now, reviewing helps us to understand everything intellectually. Why the second time we see something's different than the first? Why? We're different. So the 37th time you see or hear an idea is different than the first because, well, you're different. You're ready to see it with new eyes, right? You're ready to hear it. And it may be that today is the day that you're ready to take and apply this one. It's an important review idea. It's lesson 297. Forgiveness is the only gift I give. Yeah, that's the idea. Forgiveness is the only gift I give. And as you know, forgiveness is central to the thought system presented in A Course in Miracles. It really is. It's the one illusion that leads us away from the other illusions and toward the truth. Yeah. So that's how it's different than everything else that appears in our experience here in the world, from sights and sounds to phenomena, whether we label all of these experiences as pleasurable, as painful, as right? As neither pleasurable nor painful, right? Because we have a lot of them where we just don't give a crap. And yeah, it is what it is. So whatever we label our experience in the world, forgiveness is the illusion that leads out of suffering. Why is it an illusion? Well, there's nothing ultimately to forgive. You're perfect as you were created, remember? We're still as God created us, and always have been, always have been. So it's a beautiful idea, right? A declaration that, yes, forgiveness is the only gift you give. There are certain review ideas in the commentary for today's lesson that I want to point out to you. And these are extremely extremely helpful by way of review. So, well, forgiveness is the only gift I give because it's the only gift I want. Yeah, the commentary states that right away, first sentence, it's the only gift you want. If you want only the peace of God, the only gift you really want here in the world is one that leads you to the place where God takes the final step himself. In other words, it leads you to the peace of God. You want to be forgiven, correct? So when you answer that, yes, how does one achieve that? Forgive yourself, right? Forgive. You forgive. How are you forgiven then? Well, there is no separation of any kind. If you wish forgiveness, forgive. Everything, everyone, all appearances, everything. Total. The second sentence is a beautiful review idea as well. And everything I give myself. You give forgiveness, you receive it. Why? There is no separation of any kind. Because there's only oneness, this does necessarily mean that there's no one out there, no separation of any kind. Therefore, when you forgive your dog for peeing on the carpet, you're forgiving yourself. When you forgive a brutal dictator for starting a war, attacking his neighbor, you forgive yourself. When you forgive all armed conflict in the history of the human race, you forgive yourself. When you forgive your ex-partner for calling you an asshole, you forgive yourself. It's a very simple formula. It applies universally, 100% across the board, because there is no separation of any kind. So when you extend forgiveness, what you're doing is you're receiving it. You are accepting atonement for yourself. In other words, you're accepting healing for yourself. By extending it, you're accepting it. To give is to receive. A Course in Miracles tells us that in more than one place. It is the same energy. It's the same dynamic. The exact same dynamic is at play. When you give forgiveness, you receive it. Isn't that beautiful? Does that not make you want to forgive more? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And maybe you need more time to digest ideas such as this, and so be it. That's absolutely fine, because that's what time is for. Really. The first time we see ideas like these, like to give is to receive, forgiveness is the way out. Yeah, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me, right? There are ideas presented here in the workbook that, let's face it, many of us were not raised to believe. Therefore, we may encounter some internal resistance to them. And if you do, no problem. This is what time is for. There's nothing wrong with you because you find that you can't adopt all of this hook, line, and sinker right away. If you can't, that's all right. Everything that you're going through is perfectly according to plan. Again, the workbook asks only that we show up and practice these ideas, that we just do what it suggests and apply them. It doesn't matter if you believe them a little bit or a lot or not at all. Doesn't matter what you think of the person that's delivering the ideas to you, because it doesn't really make any difference. This is your journey. Yeah. There is no separation of any kind. So yes, it's our journey. But in order for us to adopt this thought system, we may have some soul searching, so to speak, to do. Yeah, we may have some serious resistance to work through. And that's okay. That's what time is for. If you feel like you need some time in order to fully embrace and accept these concepts and ideas, that's what time is for. So take the time. Really, because nobody can force you to do anything. I mean, if you were raised in a fundamentalist tradition and left it, as I did, you'll know, and you'll know anyway, right, in any realm of life, that when someone forces you to do something, what's the number one instinct? It's to do the exact opposite, isn't it? If someone says, eat this, that's the last thing you want to do, unless it's a large pizza or some greasy street tacos or something like that. Right? The point is that when we're told we have to do things a certain way, our rebellious instinct kicks in and we start to ask, oh, really? Why? Or we might just say, yeah, hell with you. I'm going to do it the exact opposite. So it doesn't work on the spiritual path to coerce people. All we can do is present the truth. If it sounds harsh to you, all right, sounds harsh. If it sounds benign and loving and peaceful and forgiving, that's the way it sounds to you. Forgiveness is indeed the only gift we give. It's the only gift we really want. Why? It's the only gift that leads out of suffering. It leads us to what we're really seeking, the peace of God. Nothing else does. Believe it or not, a brand new Mercedes does not lead you to the peace of God. Nothing against that. If you have one that you want to drop off and deliver to me, all paid for, of course. If you want to hand me the keys to said vehicle, thank you, I'll take it. But doesn't lead to the peace of God. A brand new house doesn't lead to the peace of God. Hot sex does not lead you to the peace of God. What leads you to the peace of God? Forgiveness leads you to the peace of God. Nothing against the hot sex, house, and Mercedes. You got them? Great. Want them? No problem. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Spirituality is not about getting that. It's about the peace of God and wanting that above all else, to the point where that's all that you want. You may end up getting that hot sex along the way. In fact, you probably will. You may end up with the house, with the car. I don't know. Villa in Italy. I don't know. You may end up with all of that. But just so we're really clear that the point of spiritual practice is to awaken, right? It's to attain the peace of God. How do we do that? Give the only gift that deep down we really want, because it's the only gift that will lead us to the peace of God. That is the gift of forgiveness. So happy forgiving, happy practicing today. And again, spirituality is all about the application of the ideas. It's about applying them. And if you find intellectually they don't make much sense, that's all right. Apply it and maybe it will begin to make sense. How will it begin to make sense? You'll experience the truth of it. And that's how we come to understand. It's more than just the rational thinking mind. It's more than that. It's about living, breathing, experiential truth. It's life itself. So thank you for tuning in, as always, and I will see you right here on the next video as we go through the remaining lessons here in the workbook. There's some really wonderful, loving, uplifting ideas. So stick with me, and thanks for tuning in.